Hey folks, Coach Tate back again talking about the UFTA Challenge and mental health here in our community. Today we are privileged enough to be chatting with Miranda Solem. Miranda, thank you for coming on. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into your position and what your role is?
Okay, I am a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and about 8 years ago, I came to work for Sanford Health and expanded my mental health experience and work. And then in my current role, we have outpatient substance use, community-based service, crisis, and the community-based is for children and adults, and then we have Northern Lights community residents for adults with mental illness.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That is a lot of services you guys are providing for the community.
It is, yeah. And in addition, Sanford, Thief River Falls has numerous individual therapists and psychiatric medication prescribers, as well as our inpatient mental health unit, which is really very unique for a community of our size in this part of Minnesota. So we are very lucky with all the services that we have in our community.
That's wonderful. And that is a big part of what we're trying to do. We want to figure out what we have here that's available. And chatting with Miranda, right now we just find that there is a ton of resources available to help when there's an issue. Awesome. Okay. So let's say, wow, there's a lot of different ways you help people. If we just kind of look back over the last few years with the pandemic and all of that, what trends do you see? Are things getting worse? Are there certain areas where you see more and more issues? What are we seeing in the community right now?
So we have definitely seen that first year when the stay-at-home order was in place, we saw a decline in people accessing services, especially like our immediate crisis services. However, after that, so then into 21 and 22, we've seen jumps each year, so more people are accessing, and unfortunately, lots of people who had already had some mental health issues or chemical health issues then were not getting the help. So that was some of the drop off, was people were staying home and not getting help, so their symptoms and their acuity was increasing. So by the time we were able to see them, it had gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
The other thing we're seeing is, especially with children, youth, because they weren't in the social environment in school, specifically, they are lacking some kind of natural born resiliency from, having, we can probably all remember being in middle school and this friend is talking bad about me, and how do I deal with that?
Right.
A lot of that natural kind of progression stuff just really didn't happen.
Sure.
So social development, I think, is a little bit behind, especially, like I said, in that group. And then in the substance abuse realm, we have seen an increase in alcohol use by people who would not necessarily have, they probably would have had abuse issues, but not necessarily dependence, because they haven't had to go into work, haven't had to drive their vehicle and maybe gotten pulled over and had that consequence. So
Sure.
They're working from home and drinking all day instead of just part of the day. So those
Right.
are the areas we've seen an increase. The one super positive thing, especially from COVID, is that we've really become great at utilizing telehealth services.
Sure.
So we've definitely seen a decline in like no-shows, and because of where we're at, we serve a broad scope, really a lot of our region. So people aren't all having to travel to get to their appointments. They're able to utilize teleservices. Now, there's obviously some drawbacks to that, but in terms of access, that's really been great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot there to unpack, but that's awesome. Thank you for delivering all of that information. Okay, so let's talk youth for a minute. That's one thing that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Before the pandemic, the statistic that always got me was the second leading cause of death in teenagers was suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been affected during this time?
Unfortunately, that's kind of like a lagging data, but
Sure.
it looks like it's rising, so I can't tell you
Sure.
100% for sure right now. We have definitely, it certainly feels like we've seen an increase in overall deaths by suicide. That the age range generally that we're always aware of is that highest risk population is like the 20 to 40 almost year olds, but I think it's very concerning. We have certainly seen more suicide attempts by adolescents than we had, I think, prior. So the exact statistics on that I don't have right at the top of my head, but yeah.
Which is fine. So when I was chatting with Melora Berge over at the school, she was talking about seems like there's a rise in general anxiety and depression and self-harm and things like that. So as a parent, I'm thinking, man, if my son or daughter is dealing with this, I find out that they're having, if they're hurting themselves or whatever, one, trying to figure out how to respond to that once you initial discovery. What's the most productive way to do that? And then two, how do you get the help that your son or daughter needs?
Yeah. So I think most important is talking about it with them and starting that like from now until whenever, because the more you talk about it even before something happens, it's a much more normal thing, as opposed to, for most people, talking about mental health is taboo.
Right.
We don't really do that, because if I say I'm anxious, people will think I'm crazy, or etc. If I say that to my child, they'll be upset and won't talk to me. But I think if we talk about it as more of a normal thing, then it's not, it really cuts down the stigma.
Yeah.
So that's important. And then if you are noticing things with your own children that you're around, working with, teaching, coaching, let them know that you are a person they can talk to. That's really, really important with kids is that relationship. They will talk to you if they have a relationship and they trust you. And if we don't freak out when they do it. Right. So I work in mental health, so I think it's pretty common knowledge, but we don't just tell them, like, if they're feeling anxious or depressed, oh, that's not a big deal. We say, tell me more about that. What's going on? What situations is this happening in? Right. So those things are really important. As far as getting help, there's lots of different places depending on what level. School counselor, Melora, we work with her. She's great. Those kind of natural supports and even professional in that nature. And then, you can call and make an appointment with the therapist. That can take some time depending on availability. So we always have the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis line. And anybody can call the crisis line. You can even call and just get, talk it through with them, what's going on, and then make a decision if we want to meet with somebody right away and then we would develop a plan, or if we think we can wait for like an emergency appointment or get in to see like a med provider, those kind of different things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be a general point of contact, like a school counselor, calling in if there's something that seems like it needs a little bit more attention, and then calling the crisis line if it's something that seems like it can't wait.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And even med provider, if you know your
Sure.
your child's primary family doctor is a great resource as well. You know, they know about our services and can connect too.
Right.
So, yep.
Excellent. Okay, so you talked a little bit about how part of our part of the problem that you're seeing with our youth is that they're lacking some of that social interaction, those social skills, being able to manage their feelings effectively and whatnot. So that's going to take a little bit of time to come back in, and they'll probably need some help with that. Being able to talk about it is a big part of that solution. What other big things can we do to help our kids make that adjustment?
So, couple of things, and even back to what can we do, you know, even if we're noticing stuff, there's tons of excellent resources on the internet, actually. So, SAMHSA, NIDA, SAMHSA is Substance Abuse Administration, NIDA is National Institute of Drugs, there's NAMI as a mental health. They have really great, they're colorful, they're you know, geared at kids and families, and there's probably plenty of other good resources too. So those are important.
Excellent.
We have really recognized that it should make perfect sense because we live in a small community, but I think that different parts of the community have over the years become siloed. We have really recognized that we have to work everybody together and everybody's expertise and put those pieces together for our whole community's wellness. So we have a community strong organization cohort. We're taking a look at what are ways that we can prevent suicide and promote mental wellness in our community. So education, getting trainings out. There's different, you know, we have an event coming up on August 23rd, the Be the Voice. We're bringing in a suicide awareness prevention speaker. We did that last year. So different things like that. Go attend, bring your children. Especially suicide, it just feels like a hard thing to talk about, but kids know about it. They hear about it. They talk about it. Even little kids, you'll sometimes catch saying, oh, I had the worst day. I wish I was dead.
Right.
Do you even know what that means? And instead of saying, don't say that, okay, let's talk about what that means and why this probably isn't an appropriate way to use that phrase.
Help them understand it a little more rather than just shut it down and act like their feelings don't matter.
And I do think we, in this part of the country, you know, we're Scandinavian, we're raised to kind of push in our feelings and buck up and
swallow your feelings over and over, and then you die.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And if you're feeling bad, you know, there's a hot dish or like a bar, not a bar with alcohol, but like a 7-layer bar that will make you feel better. So, and those things are okay too. It's just, it really, we have to talk about, and we have to talk about that probably every person in their life at some point would benefit from talking to a professional. What I recognize, especially in being, you know, blessed enough to like go into a crisis situation with a person who's maybe, and really it happens fairly frequently that, you know, let's say a guy your age comes in and thinks they're having a heart attack, but
Yeah.
really it's anxiety. And so they call us in, and I can picture a time where I met with this gentleman and he said, oh, other people feel like this. I thought I was either dying from a heart condition or going crazy. And I just told him, no, lots and lots of people feel like this, and you can get help for even not that long of a time and feel better. So I think being willing to talk about those for each of ourselves when we've struggled is really important. I've had therapy in my life. Lots and lots of other people have too, and that's important. And then I know one of the other questions you're getting to is really promoting overall wellness.
Yeah.
Which I know you are obviously a big proponent of. One of the ways that I really practice my self-care is I love to run.
Yeah.
And be physically active. That's super important to me. Lots of things that seem like a really big deal before a run aren't as bad afterwards. And then just incorporating other coping skills. That's a big thing that my level of service does with people, is building our skills for dealing with stuff that happens, because good and bad things happen to all of us. It's really just a matter of what do we do about that, and how soon do we start incorporating that and teaching that to the community and especially our children.
Sure. Could you just give me a little example of what one of those skills might be?
A great one that we utilize a lot is 4-square breathing. And so if you picture like a Post-it note, a lot of times the staff will use, so it's a square, obviously. So you breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and hold it for a count of 4. And then you just repeat that. So 4-square breathing.
Sure.
Really simple. Yep.
It just takes control of your breath and calms everything down.
Because even just talking to you, I can recognize myself not breathing as much as I should. And when you take a breath and calm down, you things look a little different.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we talk a lot about having a broad range, like that's one, but a huge broad range, because if in whatever situation I'm in, that's not working, then I got to try another coping skill. Because I can't just try one and then, okay.
Yep. I guess the wheels are falling off.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or, like I said, I like to run. Well, I can't just, I work, right? I can't just go for a run in the middle of the day when I have a bad meeting or, a situation comes up. So you have to have a toolbox. We love fidgets. I have a fidget right here. I use a lot of times in meetings. It keeps my hands busy. That helps with anxiety and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is there anything else that you feel you'd like to share with the community? Things that people should really know about when we're talking about these things?
I think the main thing that I would get up on a soapbox and talk about is it does not have to be a huge, ginormous thing. It doesn't have to be that. It can be anything, and if it affects our emotions and our life and our headspace, then that's important enough. Get help. It stayed.
Yep.
Yeah, so get help and talk about it. Talk about it with people close to you. Talk about it with other people, peers, coworkers, when you can, because I think that's the only way that we really start to normalize. If I broke my leg, or if I wear glasses. That isn't a secret. We don't hide that.
And I'm not going to hold it against you.
Right. We're open about those things, and we have to make struggling with emotional and mental wellness just as normal to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Miranda. You've been very
Yeah.
generous with your time and with your expertise. I'm sure I speak for everybody else that we're very appreciative of what you've shared today. We've got UFTA Challenge coming up August 6th, which is tomorrow. Hope you guys come and join us down there. It's going to be a high old time. A lot of good challenges for you to overcome. Lots of good things to talk about down there. All right. Are you going to be around tomorrow morning by chance?
Probably. I don't know about the other obstacles. I run in a straight line.
Well, you can run a straight line in between. That's fine.
Okay.
If nothing else, you should come down and check it out. It's going to be a good old time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.